Hey guys, welcome back to my little YouTube channel. Hope you're doing well today. What you been up to, let me know in the comments below. But today we are checking out Diablo 4 review. Man, I can't wait for this game. So without further ado, let's check it out.
Like seeing your favorite band play their greatest hit live, Diablo 4 is completely awesome to behold, even when you know exactly how the song's going to go. It may not try to push the boundaries of ARPGs, but the tweaks, improvements, and borrowed ideas it does introduce have made this the best Diablo's ever been.
Oh yeah,
Finely
that's what I want to
tuned
wear.
combat, extensive build options, and stellar graphics are all among the most impressive in the genre, and its endgame activities are
It looks
shockingly
awesome on a
well thought out.
4090.
A weak story and some irritating bugs do occasionally throw a wet blanket over the fires of hell, but the 80 hours I've spent in Sanctuary have still been overwhelmingly positive.
80 hours.
And even after all that demon slaying, I'm excited to play a whole lot more.
Break the chains and discover
Break them.
who you were meant to be. Break the chains.
Diablo 4 largely succeeds at modernizing the depths of hell enough to finally match its more recent ARPG peers, like Path of Exile or Lost Ark.
Quality.
You and up to 3 friends are once again sent on an endless string of exciting dungeon crawls, where mastering your abilities and optimizing
I haven't got
your
no friends
DPS
to play
are generally
with.
more important than an engaging story or explaining the insane diarrhea of flickering lights that currently occupies the screen. Running dungeons once again captures that enjoyable, compelling loop of killing hordes of enemies, completing objectives, and downing bosses. And doing side quests to learn more about the world's lore is usually a very good time too.
I hope you've lined your pockets with healing drops.
If you were hoping Diablo 4 would shock the ARPG world with massive innovations to the genre, however, you're likely to be disappointed in that regard. Blizzard mostly seems content to play it safe by making smart but unsurprising changes to the ARPG formula, with things like more customizable skill trees and more diverse playstyles between classes. That might sound overly familiar, but this strategy has resulted in a game that's unbelievably well designed, succeeding at practically everything it tries.
Well, that's a bit bad.
Diablo 4's story probably isn't going to win any awards, but it's still a massive step in the right direction compared to its predecessor. The quest to find and stop Lilith, daughter of one of the primevals of hell, after she unleashes her fury upon Sanctuary, serves as a fantastic kicking off point.
Oh yeah. Whoa, the stabbing?
Gone are the days of WWE-like voice performances and dreadfully cheesy dialogue.
Now, our true work begins.
The Queen of Succubi is one of the most complex villains the series has ever seen, with motivations that even made me question the justness of my own cause.
And now, all the
Sounds exciting.
has been stolen from me.
But before you get any real payoff for what's expertly set up in the first act, you'll spend most of the next 4 going on tangentially related errands with more filler than a packing peanut factory.
We're not here to collect.
The result is an interesting but disjointed story, which is a real shame, because anytime Lilith is on screen, it's engrossing stuff, but she's largely hidden behind a curtain waiting for the final act of the campaign, with a payoff that then doesn't stick the landing.
Oh.
This can't be.
The ending does at least nicely set up a whole host of possibilities for Diablo 4's inevitable updates and expansions, but it's hard not to feel let down by what this story could have been.
Oh man. Come on, don't give me negativity. I want to hear some good stuff.
Thankfully, rolling credits in a Diablo game means you've only just finished the appetizer, not the main course. When it comes to the things that really matter, like combat, build crafting, hunting for gear, and especially the endgame, Diablo 4 absolutely knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, now you
All 5 character classes are a ton of fun to play as. The rogue darts around to deal extreme damage in an exhilarating high-risk, high-reward trade-off. The sorcerer creates horrifying cocktails of destruction, like this disgusting lightning build I brewed up to stun everything around me constantly. The necromancer raises and manipulates the corpses of fallen enemies to carry out their foul desires.
Oh yeah, I like
The
that.
barbarian is an expert in all forms of Hulk smashing, who can charge forward to destroy everything in their path. And the druid uses their anamorph abilities to wail on
Whoa,
demons,
man.
with probably the most build diversity of any class.
Oh yeah, now
Gear
he's talking.
substantially affects the paths you might choose to take a character down. For example, you might get a magical pair of pants that heal you when standing close to enemies, warranting a shift in your build from slaying enemies from afar to something close quarters. Or maybe, like me, you'll get devilishly lucky when you find a weapon that sometimes casts 2 lightning spells for the price of 1, leading to some absolute mayhem.
Yeah, look at that.
Trying out new builds and experimenting with powerful equipment is one of the best parts of Diablo IV. I spent most of my time on my sorcerer, where I continuously discovered new and extremely rude ways to be the best glass cannon I
Can't
could be,
be a bit of sorcerer
like equipping an ice
action.
shield that froze enemies for the sin of attacking me to remove said shield. The variety of systems available to optimize your character are so numerous that it can be pretty dizzying at first, even for a Diablo veteran like me. But when properly mastered, this is easily one of the best build crafting toolboxes of all time. Whether it's the dense skill trees, the endgame paragon boards and powerful glyphs that can be upgraded and socketed into them, the plethora of loot options across various world tiers and rarity levels, the gems and vendor upgrades you can use to make that equipment even better, or the fact that gear perks can be tweaked to optimize them for a certain build. Blizzard seems to have thought of just about everything. And all that control meant I never
Sounds
came close to
good.
feeling like my time wasn't being respected when a loot drop didn't happen to go my way. Diving into the bone-riddled halls of this ancient tomb or this demon body part exhibit is a consistent joy. No matter what class you've chosen, shredding your way through piles of wretched reprobates is usually effortless fun that lets you flex your unrivaled power.
Yeah, look at them
So
smashing.
some of the more difficult activities
everybody
like Nightmare
up.
Dungeons are bound to put those skills to the test. There's also a good chance you'll run into a random event that might have you rescuing some poor lost souls or getting attacked by the Butcher, a familiar demon who enjoys meat hooks more than I thought possible. Admittedly, regular minions have very few unique mechanics I could discern in the seconds it took to send most back to hell
Yeah,
with my
but they're
coldest
just
regards.
minions. Who cares?
But you do get the occasional breath of fresh air, like shamans that summon new enemies to the battlefield, making their executions a high priority, or skeletons that slowly shamble toward you with big beefy shields. Dungeon bosses have a bit of a similar inconsistency. I can only fight so many big floating demon wizards called the Curator or some such nonsense before it all just blends together into one big pile of satisfyingly defeated gore.
Yeah.
But others are much more memorable, like one where a laughing cultist repeatedly summoned waves of freaks until he ran out of steam and was quickly turned into a bowl of mashed potatoes by me and my friends. Speaking of friends, Diablo IV is great for making them, as an online connection is required to push back the forces of evil. While this comes with the expected rare hitches, like getting disconnected or having to wait in short queues to play during a particularly busy time, the benefits far exceed the drawbacks. There's a much greater sense of discovery now, as you encounter other players out in the wild or murder them in cold blood in a PvP zone.
Yeah.
And those chance encounters when you're taking down a world boss, for example, can turn
Look at
into
these
new
bosses,
online
they look
friends.
awesome.
It's especially cool that trading and clans seem to have greatly increased in prominence compared to previous Diablo games. And there's a real sense of community around taking down endgame group activities together. That's the kind of magic you can get in an online game, and I'm very excited to see what ridiculous shenanigans the community gets up to.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Endgame for the end time.
Optimizing your build and coordinating with your squad means nothing if there aren't endgame activities waiting to be conquered. And Diablo IV has quite possibly the best day one endgame experience I've seen. Once you've beaten the campaign, you'll be able to run bounties for the extremely creepy Tree of Whispers, which spawns new activities infinitely in exchange for high-level loot drops. Doing so at higher world tiers also gives you keys to nightmare dungeons, which are more challenging versions of existing levels that add crazy stuff, like an invincible crystal that magically chases you while you fight souped-up enemies.
Oh, nice.
I was around level 43 when I finished the campaign, but at level 50, you'll also be ready to tackle the first capstone dungeon, a mostly by-the-numbers dungeon that serves as a power check to unlock the third world tier, and which grants access to a variety of new activities and loot drop
bit of
ranks.
nightmare action.
One completely awesome addition are Helltide events, which cause blood to rain from the sky in certain zones, and uber-deadly enemies swarm everywhere. Killing them and collecting nonsensically named aberrant cinders without dying allows you to open special chests that are positively crammed with sacred loot. Like this.
Whoa, I like the way the chests
But
are.
PvP is possibly the endgame activity with the longest tail. You'll find 2 PvP zones in Sanctuary, where you compete to slay NPC enemies to collect materials while keeping your head on a swivel to defend against rival players who might decide to kill you and take your resources for themselves. Running around in these chaotic zones is completely nerve-wracking and hilarious, especially since even your own party members can betray you by scooping up your valuable materials since they aren't shared. You might even be tempted to leave the party to rid yourself of that pesky friendly fire protection and lash out at a former ally. Then at level 70, you get another capstone dungeon to unlock the final world tier for even better loot, and there's yet another final endgame dungeon designed for level 100 characters after that. The treadmill of things to conquer is so well designed, I didn't want to get off even when I felt like I had seen 95% of what was on offer. The whole time you work towards the max level of 100, you're earning Paragon points to make your character even more deadly against your increasingly formidable foes, which serve as a carrot to keep grinding your way through Tree of Whisper bounties, Helltide events, and PvP zones. The endgame grind to reach that max level is practically perfect in terms of variety, replayability, build crafting, and more. Even if you somehow run out of things to do in the endgame for one character, rolling a second or third instantly becomes a fresh experience, since the campaign is optional after you beat it once, and certain account-wide bonuses instantly give your new character a boost. The most important of these unlocks is your mount, which allows your new characters to race off to faraway parts of the map so you can begin leveling with whichever activities you want. Tackling dungeons or participating in PvP from the fresh perspective of a whole new class immediately shakes off any dust Diablo 4's lengthy grind might gather, and extends the good times even further than I thought possible.
Nice.
The only things that can occasionally knock that train off the rails are a few nasty bugs. For example, if you enjoy teleporting around as a sorcerer, be prepared to get stuck in the ground literally hundreds of times, like this.
I need to sort that out.
That can be resolved by just teleporting back to town, but I wasted a lot of time retracing my steps, only for it to happen again a few minutes later. There's also some weird rubber banding that sometimes goes on when you try to go from one region to another that prevents you from entering a zone. Most of Diablo 4's issues are extremely specific things like this that will probably get patched, but they were noticeable enough to tangibly impact my enjoyment a bit in the meantime.
Oh, the verdict.
Diablo 4 is a stunning sequel with near-perfect endgame and progression design that makes it absolutely excruciating to put down. The story is disappointing, despite still being a noticeable improvement over Diablo 3, and there are some annoying bugs that need squashing. But the combat, the new game, and both the sights and sounds of this world are impressive enough to smooth over those rough edges. Diablo 4 takes the strategy of refining things the series already did so well, rather than giving it a massive overhaul. And that careful and reverent path has shaped this massive sequel into one of the most polished ARPGs ever created, which makes slicing through the legions of the damned a hell of a good time.
Nah, baby, nah.
For more, check out our reviews of Gollum and The Legend of Zelda.
Oh, Gollum. I did a video on that. What a load of... Man, can't wait. I am sold. A bit worried about the storyline, what he was saying though, but this game looks brilliant. It's got a 9. What more do you want? Let me know, guys, who are excited for this game like I am. Let me know in the comments below. Hope you have an awesome rest of the day, evening, and I'm back again soon with another reaction video. Bye!